how much hours you spend in the Word of God or with God will make a difference. But also the content of the information that you get also makes a difference. So you could spend a lot of hours in the Word of God, but you're not getting quality
Holy
content.
Spirit, you are welcome here. You are welcomed in my life.
Hi guys, and welcome back to Pursuing Life More Abundantly. I hope that you've had a great week, and I am glad that you are joining me once again. So I want us to continue on our current topic, and last week we looked into for us to be able to choose life on a daily basis as we make our decisions, we have to be spiritually mature. Spiritually mature that we are able to discern whether we are making a choice towards life or death. We are the drivers of our lives. And depending on our choices, our daily choices, we either lead our life to death or we lead our life unto life. You know, getting to an age where you can now become a driver does not mean that you can go and start driving. There are qualifications that you have to meet. First, you have to go to a driving school and learn how to drive. And secondly, you take the test, and if you qualify after the test, then you're issued with a driver's license. The kind of driver you become depends on who taught you how to drive or which school you went to learn how to drive. The reason why the school or the instructor determines what kind of driver you can become is because the information that you will be taught or the information that you will be given will vary depending on the school or the instructor that you choose to go to. You know, my younger brother that follows me, he went to a driving school where he was taught to drive by a police officer. And because he was taught by a police officer, it's reasonable to expect for him to have information that other people may not have who never went to a driving school taught by a police officer. The reason is that the person who taught him, being a police officer, is well aware of the requirements of a driver on the road. And you could also choose to go to a school where you're not taught by a police officer, and maybe that person tells you, oh, you don't need this skill because you may never use it anyway. So depending on the instructor or the school that you go to, information will vary. And because of that difference in information, you will have drivers that are good drivers on the road, and you will have drivers who are really just not as good. But it's not all dependent on the school, what kind of driver you become. It also depends on you as a person, what kind of student you are. Are you a student that is willing to learn and practice what you learn? Information that you get and the kind of person or the kind of student you are will eventually determine what kind of driver you are. So in our topic, we have to determine what kind of driver we want to be as we drive our lives. So if you want to be a good driver, then you have to choose a good school. But if you just want to be an okay driver, it may not matter what school you go to. If you want to be an excellent driver, then you have to choose the best schools to go to. And then you also have to work on yourself. You have to have that determination and dedication to be that excellent driver by practicing what you have learned. And also depending on what kind of life that you want to lead. that will also determine what kind of driver's license that you get. You know, my dad used to drive those big trailer trucks that you see on the road, the 53 feet trucks. And for him to drive that truck, he had to go to another different school specific to teaching drivers on how to drive those big trucks. He had a normal driver's license, but he could not drive that big truck because you have to be taught on how to drive that big truck. There's information that you get from that specific school on how to drive those big trucks. There's information that you get on what kind of distance you need to leave between cars when you're driving on the road. Because, first of all, those trucks take time to slow down. So you need to leave enough space for yourself in case you need to slow down, that you might have that space. And we all know, of those of us who are drivers, sometimes when the truck drives quite slow, you want to go and pass them. So the drivers also have to consider that people will come and cut them off. So they still have to leave that space to accommodate that. And many other things that they learn at the school. And I remember one time I was watching a show on TV, and it's a show based in Canada, and the show is called Marketplace. And they were investigating schools that teach drivers how to drive these big trucks because of the increase of accidents on the road that involved these trucks. So they took one person undercover and put hidden cameras on him, and he went to one particular school there in Canada. So the training was 16 hours, and after that 16 hours, he went on the road and did a test. And with just that 16 hours of training, he was issued with a license to drive those big trucks. This show, The Marketplace, had another truck driving company or truck driving school that they were working with. So they took this undercover driver to that school, and they did tests on his driving skill. The goal of the test was to see if this driver, this undercover driver, had the necessary skills to have that particular license. And this school that worked together with the Marketplace had a requirement of 105 hours or more before they could issue a new driver with a driving license. Compare that with 16 hours. There's a huge difference. So even in the level of experience that the drivers are going to have is going to be different. So anyway, the driver was tested. The conclusion of the person who tested him said that it was not safe for him to be on the road. First of all, he didn't have a basic skill that is required for a truck driver. He didn't know how to hook the trailer to the truck. And as he was getting tested, the report said that the examiner had to pull the emergency brake because he was about to cause an accident on the road. So even though the driver learned skills of how to be a truck driver in the school with the 16 hours of training, he still wasn't qualified to be on the road. So our level of training in the Word of God, it may be in the amount of hours, but I believe it's more of the content that you get, the quality of the information that you get will determine what kind of driver you will be. Are you going to be a safe driver to be on the road? The owner of the company or the school that the undercover driver went to issued a statement after the investigation and said that the training that they give at their school is focused on what is required within that area. And he also continued and said if someone was to choose to do the 16 hours of training, they have to teach that person all they can within that short time period. My reason for giving this example is for you to see that the choice that you make of where to get trained in the Word of God matters. The person who trains you in the Word of God matters. You will either end up unskillful in the word of righteousness, or you'll end up with a skill where you're able to discern good and evil, where you're able to discern life and death. So we saw that our undercover driver only had 16 hours of training, and there was information that was not taught to him. He didn't know how to hook the trailer to the truck. So there was information that was missing. So as believers, it's important to have the hours in the Word of God, and also the content or the quality of the content also matters. If we are not receiving quality content, then we'll be lacking in skills that are needed on us for us to be able to choose life. So again, I pose another question to you. What kind of driver are you? Or what kind of driver do you want to be? You are the driver of your life. What kind of driver do you want to be? Are you going to be the driver who is not safe to be on the road? Are you going to be an okay driver? Are you going to be a good driver? Or are you going to be an excellent driver? How do you even know what kind of driver you are at this point? I think I will answer your question with another question to you. What have you learned so far since you received Jesus as your Lord? Who is training you in the Word of God? What kind of training have you gotten so far? Have you seen growth? Are you practicing what you've learned? You know, every driver on the road goes to a school and they learn something. But not every driver practices what they've learned. You may know that driver who doesn't practice what they've learned. They come and they cut you off without even indicating that they are going to come to your lane. Or you may be that driver who does that. We may have all fallen into that category of being a driver who doesn't practice what they've learned. But if we want to be good drivers, we have to practice what we have learned and what we'll continue learning. On this journey of pursuing life and choosing life, we have to continually learn. So the question comes back to you to evaluate yourself and find out what kind of information are you learning. Is it quality information? How much time are you spending in the Word of God so that you can gain that skill of practicing the Word of God, so that you can gain that skill of discerning whether a decision is leading you to life or is leading you to death? I hope that this information has been helpful to you. I know I have posed so many questions to you, but I pray that we take those questions and evaluate ourselves. And the wonderful thing I love about questions have a hidden ability to attract answers. So welcome questions in your life, and you can be assured that you will get answers to those questions. And I pray that the answers that you get will be in accordance to God's will. Thank you so much for your time. I'm wishing you a great week ahead, and I will see you guys next week on Monday. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also leave me a comment down below on the comments, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can be notified next time I post. Thank you so much. enjoy your week. Bye.